Listen up, gamers, because we're about to weave a worldwide Web3 where time-tested game design meets JRR tokenomics. Today, our target is none other than the game of spider tanks. But before you spin on that dislike button, my dear bag holders, let me assure you, I'm here to offer guidance. You know, I could have taken the easy route and shouted Gala XL, Gala XL. Now your currencies shouldn't have so much trouble to sell, and use the oh my god, I'm about to blow a United States president clickbait thumbnail starter pack. But I'm trying to keep it real here, and I wrote that on the starter cap. You see, Gala Game suffers from the same problems as every other Web3 game out there. They did not have the foresight to hire me as their game designer. But fear not, for I've already forgiven them, and I'm generously offering my expertise pro bono, which we know is code for they couldn't afford me. So please, don't hate on the player, hate the game. You know, this started out as an earning guide to teach new players about all of the various ways to experience the game based upon the level of financial contribution that they were comfortable with. So that way they had the proper expectations before making any financial decisions. But I began to realize that any type of earning guide would imply that I support or agree with the way the system is designed, and nothing could be further from the truth. First, let's tackle the elephant in the room, shall we? I call him Eddie. Eddie the exploitative elephant. I'm talking about the game's pilot or rental system. It's marketed as a free-to-play to earn option implemented to attract new players and give them a taste of the game without a financial commitment. And so I'm presenting the perspective of that new player's experience here using this system as it was intended. My main gripe as the pilot is that you only earn half of your winnings, while the NFT owner pockets the other half.
Now, hold on a second, Danny.
You might ask,
Why is that a problem?
players have limited time to play and win matches. They've got to sleep, work, and even poop. And this limitation on their individual efforts is what gives value to their actions. Players are expected to invest their time and earnings to eventually buy their own tank and upgrade it. And many do so since they're gaining a fun and thrilling experience in addition to their earnings. This is what keeps them from being extractive players. However, there's no fun to be had for the people who only rent out tanks and don't even play the game. So there's no reason to keep the money in the ecosystem unless they want to expand their nest of spider tanks. The whole point of adding passive income for NFT owners is not to enable free players as the developers advertise, but to convince tank owners to both hold on to tanks instead of selling them and constantly acquire more tanks, artificially raising the price through increased demand, while also increasing the supply at the same time. This is only beneficial in the short term, as it is an unsustainable pyramid scheme that requires the constant flow of new players injecting more money into the economy in order to bypass the grind of being a free player. To be clear, the game is free to play, but they restrict the player's ability to earn with a free tank unless they're also providing passive income to an NFT holder. Take a moment to imagine if you played a game such as League of Legends, and you were forced to play with a random champion every match. How much longer would it take for you to get good? Now imagine you're competing against players who get to choose their own champions freely. This advantage gained by them is enormous in a competitive game. But hold your gift horses, folks, because it gets even worse. These newbies, bless their souls, are already the least experienced players in the game naturally, and yet they're the ones facing the steepest learning curve while only raking in 12.5% of what others are making that are playing the game on easy mode. It's never a smart move to attempt to frustrate players into coughing up their cash, as quitting the game is a much more common outcome, considering we're talking about the price of a full video game in exchange for the single worst tank, instead of smaller microtransactions which promote gradual spending over time, while these larger purchases cause players to focus on how fast they are able to make that money back. Now let's talk about the price tag. You dare to complain about it, and what do the Gala Maxis say?
Just buy a tank, mate.
They casually toss around a $20 price tag like it's pocket change, but when you head over to OpenSea, the cheapest option you find is a common tank and weapon combo for $30. And don't even get me started on the fees, since you have to pay a fee to use your credit card, to send crypto to your wallet, double the fees for buying both a weapon and a tank body, 2 more fees to migrate them to the GYRI chain, and by the time you're done, that $30 price tag is creeping much closer to $50. Did they conveniently forget to mention that? Or are they just completely out of touch with the reality of playing their own damn game? I don't even blame them, honestly, because imagine you've been following the game for ages, invested countless hours into research, played tons of matches, and I can't even tell if this is a game anymore, or if I'm pursuing a master's degree in applied economics from Johns Hopkins University. It's like they've had a revolving door of developers at Game Media, each bringing their own convoluted visions to the mix, or perhaps Gala's Lord Business is pulling the strings for bigger profits while having no regard for what they're doing to the state of the game. You have to wonder why we're still stuck in this web of confusion. Oh, and let's chat about the honor system. New players are slapped with a measly 25% of the 50% VIP earnings when they start. Let me explain. You see, when you join the game, you are a dishonorable piece of shit until proven otherwise. And how do you climb out of this pit of dishonor? Each day, your earnings increase by a maximum of a pathetic 0.33%. So after 227 grueling days of dedication, you finally get the grand prize, earning a full 100% of that 50% you were promised. Woohoo! But wait, there's more. If you dare withdraw any silk or transfer a tank to sell, your precious honor points take a nosedive based on what you didn't sell or transfer. Goodbye progress, and guess what? You'll take even longer to reach that 100% milestone once again. Oh, and spending silk to buy stuff? That boosts your honor. But who knows how many players throw in the towel before they get there? And how many end up becoming paying players? My bet is that most quit rather than pay, and more players pay rather than finish this free-to-play Iron Man grind of death. You know what really gets under my skin? The fact that none of this seems to be planned from the get-go. If they had been upfront about everything, and they laid out all of the rules and the future expectations when people purchase Gala Gold, Silk, Nodes, Tanks, Maps, and even convince their friends to join, then fine, whatever. But the problem is, they made all of these sales based on one set of rules, and then completely flipped the script multiple times without offering any compensation or refunds to their customers. It's a slap in the face to consumer rights, plain and simple. They claim to have tested everything, modified designs while in beta, and deemed it was good to go for release. So what happened? They only started realizing the multitude of problems after they launched? Seriously? Then what is even the point of having a beta if you're going to discover most major issues afterwards? It's so bizarre to me. So let's talk about the experience of a new player who decides to give this game a shot. They play for free, as most players do, and what do they get? Oh, just the pleasure of being forced to play with a random tank every single match, earning a measly 12.5% of what tank owners rake in. They grind their hearts out, investing all of their earnings into finally owning their own tank. Meanwhile, these ancient tank owners are laughing their way to the bank, making at least 1,000 times more for each match. And heaven forbid you make $10 a day, because that would tank your honor and future earnings regardless of how much you invest. It's like they purposely designed the system to be confusing and limiting as hell, so players don't even realize they're being taken advantage of until it's too late. It is hard for me to care about a match with random tanks when I know I may earn 1 or less victory point by winning, and another match where I earn 200 to 300 victory points. And that's exactly what happens from round to round, and it has nothing to do with skill, but luck of the draw. Now there's another option, directly renting tanks. You can spend countless hours lurking in their Discord hoping to find someone who trusts you enough to lend you their tank for a day. But the earnings are based on your rank and honor, and guess what? Since new players start off as dishonorable, it's a catch-22. Because nobody wants some low in rank and honor to rent their tanks for the day, and I don't blame them if they're only earning 10% of what they could be. The only way to make some progress is by crossing your fingers and getting lucky enough to win with a legendary or ancient tank to maximize your honor. If you try doing this with only a common tank, it will take up to 454 days instead of a mere 227. It's enough to make you pull your hair out. But hey, don't worry, there is a glimmer of hope. After gaining your daily honor, you can always play with the free tanks that conveniently don't reward you any victory points. Yeah, sounds fun, right? You focus on honing your skills this way with a single weapon and body that suits your playstyle from the 3 options available. It will help you improve your mastery so that you climb ranks faster and unlock a dedicated rental much sooner. And that's the name of the game for the free rollers. Oh, and one more pro tip, never play solo if you can avoid it. Get yourself a solid 3-stack team and you'll have a massive advantage over those poor bastards stuck with randos that frequently disconnect or suffer from high ping. Voice comms, synchronized loadout, strategic plays, it's a total game changer. But even with all that, I can't help but feel infuriated by the core issues here. Spider Tank pretends to be a game of skill, but let me tell you, skill has absolutely nothing to do with earnings. And to add insult to injury, money influences the strength of the tanks as well. That's why it's an absolute mess. In the bronze tier, my experience has been nothing short of a circus. Over 200 matches of freshly faced players and feeble tanks pitted against overpowered tanks controlled by lousy players, randomly rented tanks, select rented tanks, and let's not forget the 3-stack pre-made teams. It's a mishmash of chaos, all on the same servers, and we're not even playing the same game. And what really pisses me off is when I lose a match, I'm often flamed by this hotshot in the $3,000 tank, but they're still stuck in bronze down here with me. And guess what? The reason we got matched against tougher opponents in the first place was because they were rocking such an expensive tank. But when we win, guess who's raking in 1,000 times more winnings than I am, even if I carried the match as the MVP. You got it, Johnny fucking Deep Pockets over there. Every time one of these things happens, I find myself utterly disgusted and have to call it quits for the day. Now I understand that this is just my personal experience and yours may differ, so please enlighten me in the comments. I'm sure anyone can earn in this game, but let's be honest, the way earning is implemented feels like it's getting in the way of the game rather than enhancing it. It is a bitter pill to swallow, and I wasn't put on this earth to sugarcoat it, so you must have me confused with somebody else, such as Julie Andrews from the 1964 musical motion picture Mary Poppins. Listen, I'm not one to point out problems without offering potential solutions, but slapping on more band-aids won't cut it. It's time for them to blow up the whole thing and start fresh with the focus on fun and fair gameplay first, just like competitive games are supposed to do. Anything that gets in the way of that, such as a convoluted honor system, never-ending cycle of rentals, or those dreaded pay-to-win advantages, needs to be obliterated. Let the free players earn their keep with common tanks that can be upgraded through progression. Give them something worthwhile to spend their earnings on. And hey, why not let them upgrade all the way to ancient tanks if they're that dedicated, so the tank becomes a store of value instead of a gatekeeper of silk. Seriously, if you have to resort to blackmailing your players with honor restrictions, GYRI fees, and ramped up difficulty, it's crystal clear that something is seriously wrong with the whole setup. Earning should be as seamless as spending, and the exorbitant fees to bridge assets to F and sell them, it's 3 times the cost compared to bridging them into the network. And if you can buy honor, that has to be the least honorable system I've ever heard of in my entire life. And real dishonorable actions, such as being a total doucherino, results in what seems like a 5-minute ban, if that. Thank you for watching, and I hope to clear up the play-to-earn mechanics of spider tanks, as I've done for dozens of other games. but I'm just as lost as you are, and I'm about done playing Marco Polo in this toxic pool of silk and spider piss. I'm about split 50-50 on buying a tank and trying that route for research purposes, and a lack of a real MOBA in Web 3. Drop a like if you'd like to see that, and don't forget to subscribe so we can commiserate again sometime.
Yeah, Mr. Laser.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
You will be destroyed.
You're going
The
down.
explosion will be of extraordinary magnitude. Just hang on.
It takes a while.
Oh God, my back!